Okay, so Justin, did you get a chance to read Cindy Leifer's op-ed?
I did.
Great. All right, so we're just going to jump right into it. What did you think was the lead or the news hook?
Well, the first thing I think that comes to mind is the doubt is inherently human. So it's typically going to be the first thing that pulls you in. I also think the picture of Rand Paul is also a compelling hook.
Yeah. So, and by doubt, do you mean in the title up here, or do you mean
the kind of the subtitle, right? So doubt is inherently human, and it has a useful purpose, but that doesn't mean it's okay to keep questioning climate change, evolution, and the power of vaccines. So there's kind of this, yeah. So there's this, yes, doubt is good. It's inherently human, but it's going to kill us kind of thing when it comes to climate change. Well, maybe not evolution, but climate change and vaccines for sure.
Okay. So actually, I would probably call that the thesis, what she's trying to tell us.
Okay.
And I would call the news hook this thing about Rand Paul. Because that's sort of the thing, that's the lead. Actually, it's funny, it's called LEDE, like I had it, but I think of it as LEAD, like what's leading you in. And so before making the argument, this is kind of weird, because they kind of give the argument at the top on Pacific Standard, but I don't think they always do that. She sort of draws you into some recent history thing with Rand Paul, and then I think she kind of gives a little twist, you know, that you might not expect at the end, that here he is, he's a doctor, right?
Yes, yes.
But that he consistently rejects scientific findings. So,
So this is kind of like the contradictory statement that brings us in. So he's this way, but when it comes to this, he contradicts himself.
Right, right. And then
the only one.
Pardon?
He's not the only one, according to what it goes through here.
So, and then what would you say the thesis is?
Then that doubt is inherently human, and
right.
But it's going to kill us.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of a summary here, right? So she says, doubt allows us to question the world around us and promotes healthy debate about controversial issues, but we must be open to new information as it comes along. So she's kind of saying doubt's good, but it can be really damaging, which I think is pretty much what you said. So what is her argument, her types of evidence, thinking back to what I talked about before, statistical evidence, historical evidence?
She does use some statistics, and she uses some history as well. So she talks about Galileo and Columbus. Yeah. Then there is, obviously she uses the evidence around the instances of child mortality around preventable disease. And the lack of evidence around, say, the impacts of vaccine on, say, autism or other types of mental illness. And then goes into climate change, right? As the next kind of logical process, and she also goes into the history on evolution. So those are, I think, all the evidence that she puts forth there. Right, and I think she has, I forget what it's called, but like a little story or an incident, because she does have this photo of Governor Rick Scott and how he. Yes, the climate. Yeah, he used. Yeah, so we've got a current or relatively current news stream on the mandate to expunge climate science or climate change and global warming from official discourse at the state level. Wow, you're doing great, Justin. So now we have to get to the to be sure or the so what part of this. And so how does she sort of acknowledge that there's a counter argument to what she believes in, or her opinion, what she's trying to show, and then debunk the counter argument? Well, let's see. I think the way that she goes and she addresses a counter argument, I think, in the idea of unethical scientists, right? So where in some cases scientists can present falsified data or incorrect data to prove a particular point, that's a huge issue, and that is can lead to people not trusting science, and that and then you also have the issue of, but it also could lead to like deep scars, is what she talks about in the case of like the Wakefield science around the vaccines and autism. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that these are singular reports that have been debunked by other science or have come out as being falsified or presented unethically, and that at the end of the day, yes, while we should question, and the nature of science is to question, it's also about being open-minded to that new information. Because if we just take that one report, the Wakefield report, or like the one, I think the one that's been going around is the Newsweek article from the 70s that talked about that the planet could be cooling. And there was the recent thing where Jim Inhofe from Oklahoma brought a snowball into the Senate floor, right. And he was talking about back in not too long ago, we were all going to freeze to death, and that was a 1976 Newsweek article. But that's been debunked, right? So just because, I think that's the so what, right? So it's like we can all find evidence on one article here or there that, climate change is not happening, or vaccines do lead to autism. But if we look at, but maybe that's not the way we should be looking at it. We should not just be looking at one outlying article or one outlying study to make our.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. And you brought in climate change, and that's one of the reasons I really like this article, is that she brought in climate change also. And I just wanted to add just one other thing, is that I think she mentions in here the peer review process. So all these people like Jim Inhofe, and this relates to, I think, one of the issues we've been addressing in the class about climate deniers, he's bringing in the, 1% of scientists or 2% of scientists who don't agree with the majority opinion. And maybe in, 40 years ago, we should be listening to them. We should always listen to the doubters. But when you have peer review and such a large community over many, many years who have just proven these people, then it seems sort of weird that they just kind of continue, some politicians continue to just focus on the people whose evidence probably isn't even peer reviewed. So in any case, she debunks some of the arguments against her thesis, which have to do about doubting science, by saying, yes, it's fine to doubt science, but you really need to look at the peer review system and the bulk of evidence, and you can't keep doubting forever and ever. So then there's just one other component of the op-ed, which is the conclusion. Anything there, Justin?
Her conclusion is basically kind of a reiteration of her opening statement there.
Right.
Like she says, what people deny today based on belief may be undeniable tomorrow. And I think, yeah.
Yeah, and it's best to keep a doubtful yet a very open mind and listen to evidence. So
the conclusion is very short. I mean, her thesis statement's short, her conclusion is short, and it's all bulked around the evidence and the so what.
Right. So great job, Justin. It's fun to have a discussion with you over WebEx. And so now this is the introduction for you all to look at, and then I'm not exactly sure how we're going to do it yet, but we'll have an opportunity for you to have a question and answer period. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be available next week at the regular time when we are doing our webinars. So we'll figure out either synchronous or asynchronous or both for you to discuss the assignment and any questions you might have about op-eds. But remember that your assignment now is to make an argument. You know, for example, there's been a lot of discussion about phenology programs and how they might help people to understand climate change, and then potentially, although I think the connection might be a little tenuous there, is lead to climate action. So the course states that climate change needs bold ideas and actions. I think everybody agreed with that statement about the action in particular on the first webinar. So as you write your op-ed, think of an argument about how environmental education can contribute to climate change action, and support your argument with whatever evidence that you have available to you. For some of you, the stats, the statistics might be hard, but we know you can be creative and come up with evidence to support your argument. So thank you, and we'll be discussing this some more, and we really look forward to your op-eds because they're going to leave a legacy, as I mentioned, beyond this course for other people to read and to provoke thought, which is always good.
Thanks, Marianne.
Thank you.